Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Reverend Tia. Hello,
Hello,
Trisha.
how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful.
So, welcome, Reverend Tia from the Choice Zone.
hmm
and
I'm so glad to be here
Trisha,
tonight.
yes. Trisha from Survivor Speaks.
Yes.
Attorney Mac left me a message and said he's going to be joining in later. He's in a meeting. He's
hmm
probably on that freedom line.
Yeah. Somebody has called in and they need
Right.
help right away. hmm
Right.
It's
So thank you guys.
almost like he's in the back cave.
Right. So, and I want to just welcome everyone who's watching from YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and those who will watch us on the later on after the live is over. Thank you guys for joining
hmm
us, for turning a moment into a movement. There's Trisha.
Yeah.
Hey, Trisha.
Hey there, sisters. How y'all doing?
Oh,
Wonderful.
yeah.
That's good.
So our mission is to bring awareness to all that are impacted from being wrongly convicted, overly sentenced, mentally ill, and medically frail in our communities, to inspire, organize, and educate all communities about the need to disrupt systems, policies, and
hmm
patterns of the criminal legal system that leads to wrongful
hmm
convictions. That is why we're
hmm
here. um, I also represent the Justice for Gerard movement, who is my son, who was wrongfully convicted of a crime, and he was wrongfully convicted. And because of that journey with him, we are here today. And I got on my Black Voters Matter T-shirt on that I got for
hmm
Trisha. And I'm excited about the
Nice.
conversation we're going to be having today. And with that, I'm going
hmm
to bring on our guest, Angela Davenport. Hi, Angela.
Hi,
Hello
Angela.
there. It took me a second to get the mic. Hi.
Hey. So, Angela, introduce yourself for those who are not familiar with you and your organization, and tell us what it is that you do.
Okay, so I'm Angela Davenport, and I am the executive director of an organization called Voting Access for All Coalition,
hmm
VAAC for short, VAAC. So folks that know us, we usually just go by, hey, we VAC, um, and what it is that we were founded because we realized that there's a whole population that was being left out of the electoral process. And so we found that in Michigan, we know that unless you are currently serving a sentence, you can't vote. And there may be people that don't know that. So I want to say it again, unless you are currently actively serving a sentence at that moment, you can vote. And but there were so many who either were not aware of that or were purposely given bad information. And there's a lot of misinformation around this also. And so one of our founders, Danny Jones, he and a group got together and said,
Aw.
you know what? This is something that we need people to understand just how valuable and how important their vote is. It's not something just to throw away and take lightly. Like voting has changed systems in a way that I would not be an executive director had it not been for not just voting, but then coinciding with that is getting out and marching and moving, right? So it's not one or the other, it's both.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
first of all, Danny Jones, I want to, to him, I used to have his picture on here. I don't even have it right now. I'll try to get it before we go off to put it on the screen. But yes, he was a true justice advocate.
hmm
And This is a big thing, and I want to just go back and say if you're either on parole or probation, you can vote.
That is correct.
So,
Absolutely. Yes, you can. But as I was saying, though, because you see what happens in other states, there are fines and fees in other states. To some folks, it was like, it's just not even worth it. Like, I'm just not going to vote. So when you have this idea that my vote's not important, and more than that, why should I vote? And more than that, I'm going to be punished for voting. So I can understand why people would say, I'm just not going to do it. But guess what? You can vote in Michigan. And so we're nonpartisan. We don't tell you who to vote for. My thing is, whatever your choice is, exercise it.
yeah.
And so, like, one of the things that we've been doing are going to reentry centers, going to treatment facilities, and just going to places where when we go, they'll say, well, no one's been here to take us. Like somebody like hugged us and was like, yo, like somebody cared. I think if you are someone that, let me rephrase this. I think that for some, it could just be, it's just a vote. Like, it's just a vote. But for so many others, it's like, I have an opportunity to be heard, to move systems, to put people in office, to take them out of office. I can do this. And so I want everyone to have that same, that same passion. It's nothing to take lightly.
Yes. We have power. That's our power. Our vote is our voice. And it's the one time that we all can come together and be heard.
Especially when you're talking about like addressing wrongful convictions, right?
Yeah.
So when we are talking about electing officials, we can elect people who prioritize criminal legal reform, right? We can elect people who advocate for that, advocate for fair policies, right? And more than that, to support policies that will rectify miscarriages of justice. So these are, to me, some of just the things that are on the ballot.
Good. Because qualified absolute immunity is on the ballot. I'm just gonna say this, and you think qualified immunity is something, don't go vote, and you might find out that that what you thought was bad wasn't as bad as what it is. So I'm just saying, that's just my little extra push on that. That's important to me. That's just very important to me. And as our platform, we have been already, we feel strongly about qualified immunity and that we want to eliminate that in Michigan. And so our conversations have been about that and our actions have been about that. So to have absolute immunity on the ballot, we can't just sit back home and not do anything. We have to educate ourselves and get out to these polls. I have a little bit of history of that I wanted to play of our elders who were talking about the history and what they had to go through to vote.
Black people in Mississippi had to pay $2 to vote. The white folks didn't pay nothing.
In what year? And what year was that?
That was 1960.
1960. And what are you about to do today?
I'm about to vote free. I got victory in my feet.
Yes, Lord. I know that. Let me see what victory in the feet looks like. That's the victory in the feet.
Yes.
Yes. victory in my feet.
I know that's right. I got another one for you guys.
My poll tax certificate from 1960. This is when we had to pay poll tax. You had to choose between feeding your family or voting. You only made $2 a week because you didn't have jobs that we have today. So a lot of us didn't vote because that was voter suppression. We decided to feed our family. What do? Vote or feed your family.
And what year was this, ma'am?
1960.
And this is yours.
This is my original.
Wow.
I have the original.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I find that while our people went through so much for the right to vote, I don't see that resonating with people, right? As much as it really, you know, the depth of what we as a people, what our ancestors went through, I don't see that. Like, you know, when I'm out boots on the ground, like, honestly, these kids ain't checking for who. That story would have went right over their head. And so, you know, we do something called voting and more workshops. And in the workshop a couple weeks ago, this gentleman, you know, he had a very serious question. I told him, I said, you know, sometimes I think people ask questions that they know the answer to, but I will oblige you, right? And he said, well, what do you do when they say that that they don't want to vote, or some of the reasons why some of our younger kids don't want to vote? And I tell people all the time, lean into that. You're right. Your one vote might not count, right? But if you get together and you vote collectively with people, and what I'm trying to say is we've been disengaged for a reason, right? So, you know, when we pull up in the hood, we don't necessarily come with, you know, oh, our ancestors fought. Now, yes, sometimes we do say that, you know what I'm saying, if it's relevant, but it's like, what are the messages that resonate with our youth to really make them want to vote? And that's what we're trying to figure out. You know what I mean? Because once you disengage people for so long, it's hard to get them back on the other side of the ballot, right? And so that's why it's like one of our number one staple programs, because you can't just pull up one time talking about voting, right? You can't. There has to be a consistent over and over. That's why we created the workshop, voting and more, right? Because we got to do more than vote. You know, it's so many layers to this thing, and I think, you know, and that's why I appreciate VAAC. VAAC is out with us just as much as they can be, and other organizations that are really the pulse of putting this message out to the community, because without some of these groups, our people would still be disengaged. That I just want people to understand that was on purpose. They had that Black vote that they wanted, just enough with our Black elite and our middle class, and could care less about those that are disenfranchised. As a matter of fact, a local politician here in this area told me that a specific party, who I shall not name, doesn't even send mailers in areas that are low voting. And I'm saying to myself, how dumb is that? Because if you all would get out and really engage the voters, right, maybe they could believe in this system of voting again. But unfortunately, like I tell people all the time, we're not waiting for them to engage us. What we teaching people is you engage them. This is your life. This is your family. This is your future. This is your community. And we got to take back our power somehow, and voting and our voices collectively together are a way to do it.
I actually believe I know who you're speaking of when you say that they weren't doing mailers. That's part of a conversation that we've had, because this is our first year of doing phone banking and door-to-door canvassing. And what I have come to realize, and just being transparent, like a lot of my time in the world of organizing was spent behind a computer. I wasn't engaging with the community, with folks, with the needs and the wants. So when you go door to door, I mean, it's a whole nother type of experience that you really find out where people are, what they believe, how they feel they've been treated or not. And so when we went in to some areas, there were mailers for a particular candidate that I won't name, and none for another. And the way you know is that there were some houses that had so much mail built up that you knew, like you could see it. And so to me, it can't be about a party. Like, I'm not when I talk to people, first of all, we're nonpartisan, but even as just Angela, I don't talk about a party system. I talk about who is supporting what you need, what you want. And that's how I've come to see things for me, because my things don't always align with one specific party.
Right. I agree. I think our focus been so much on the personality where we need to zero in on the policies.
That's it. The policies.
The personalities, they come and go.
Right.
It's entertainment is, they're going to say whatever they think you want to hear. But who's speaking about the policies? And sometimes the policies might not come from the people that you always think that they're coming from. And so we had to be engaged on a different level than before, when we was just right or left. We have to look at everything now.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, this is such a very important conversation, because I just don't think when you talk about policy and personality and how easily people are shifting their focus. And I want to remind people that whatever we focus on really does expand. And what are you focusing on? And we need to ask ourselves that, because sometimes we're focused on the entertainment of the day.
Right.
Or we're not focused in on what's going on in our neighborhoods, what's happening with the people who live across the street from us or even next door. And unfortunately, with all the technology and everything, people are living disconnected. They're living connected yet disconnected, connected on social media, connected on different sites, but disconnected as far as humanity is concerned, as far as
that get worse
having a conversation.
With COVID? Did that get worse
Pardon
with
me?
COVID? Did that
It
get
got
worse?
It did. Well, because with illness, people secluded themselves. A lot of fear was involved. And then you're just trying to survive, just you and your family and the people close to you, But then some, because of, like I said, all of the technology and we have so much information coming to us at lightning speed that many times we don't stop and breathe. We don't stop and consider, really what's going on, like you said, what's really happening. And I believe that when we talk about voting, and Trichet and Angela has already said how that's our voice, that voice is our power. And just one of the discrepancies that I notice when it comes to voter ID requirements, did you know that, and I'm asking the audience, that rule differs by state? And this is where you can see, when you talk about policy, how disunited, disconnected we are as a country, because it comes back to the old, okay, states, you figure it out yourself. Don't involve the federal government on this issue. Why? Because it involves people who are already vulnerable and at a disadvantage in the community. And so here we are talking about voter ID requirements. And what is it? Well, you got to look it up. You got to look it up for your state. So the misinformation that comes is often suggests that all states require the same form of ID to vote. That's not true. But ID requirements vary widely. Some states require a government issued photo ID, while others accept documents like utility bills and bank statements. Some states don't require ID at all. It's best to verify all the requirements with your local election offices. And this is where many people can get lost.
Yeah. We got you
You
done
know.
tap right into the PowerPoint, Revertia.
Okay.
So while we're there, let's go there. So I'll let you take it, Angela.
Okay. Do I need an ID to vote if it's my first time voting in Michigan? So I will say that you may need to provide some type of ID to vote if it's your first time voting in Michigan. But let me just add that when we go into treatment facilities, when we go into some of the homeless shelters that we've been going into, we have been able to work with the facility to get what they call a face sheet. So we are able to ask people, do you have a mail that you have? If you register to vote through the mail or a registration drive and you did not provide your Michigan driver's license or state ID number or social security number, then yes, you may need to provide some type of ID. But that said, like I said, that there are different types of ID, and we have had these some folks go in with us and ask to sign an affidavit. You can use an electronic or paper copy of any of these documents as your ID, a photo ID. It must include your name, but it does not need to have an address, and the address does not need to be current. I would say if you are staying somewhere and you have unstable housing, you can use a cross street. You do not have to use the address that is on the ID. A document, you need a document with your name and a current address, like a current utility bill, bank statement, paycheck stub, government check, or any other kind of government document. What can I use besides an ID as identification to register to vote? So we know that registering by mail or online ended on October 21st. As of the 22nd, it was in person. So yes, it is possible without an ID, but you may have to submit a copy of proof of residency, which could be, again, a paycheck stub, utility bill, bank statement, or government document that lists your name and address, or sign an affidavit. What can I use besides an ID as identification to vote? Voters who don't have their ID at the polls are able to sign an affidavit in order to still vote. The ballot will be counted as normal. I will say that again. Voters who don't have their ID at the polls are able to sign an affidavit in order to still vote. The ballot will be counted as normal. And if you come across a poll worker or someone who says, no, you can't sign an affidavit, or they're giving pushback, please call 866-OUR-VOTE. I will say the number again, 866-OUR-VOTE. How can I submit my absentee ballot if I can't mail it? Well, if you're unable to mail your absentee ballot, you can turn it into your city or township clerk's office or a designated drop box. And you can find your drop box location by going to michigan.gov/vote and choose who is my clerk. I will also say that at votingaccessforall.org, you can visit our website that has answers to all these questions. If there's anything you need in more detail, you can also contact us or 866-OUR-VOTE, and someone will help you. Can I give my absentee ballot to my case manager or someone else I work with to deliver to my clerk's office? So you, a person from your household or an immediate family member, can physically turn in your absentee ballot. If someone tells you you can't register to vote, you can't register or vote, call the Election Protection Hotline. And I cannot say the number again, enough rather. It's 866-OUR-VOTE. There's assistance in English, in Spanish, in Arabic. There's also Bengali, Cantonese, Hindi, Korean, Mandarin, and other ways to find your specific language. Okay, so this flyer is for, we've been working with the Secretary of State and some of our amazing community partners like Force Detroit, Fair Voting Alliance, Speak Life, Party to the Polls, the Black Fund, and we've been having what we call barbershop talks. So we go into different settings where we go to meet the people where they are. So instead of always having events where we're asking folks to come to us, we want to go to settings where they are and have conversations with them. Is really finding out where they stand around voting, questions they may have, why they do or don't vote, what motivates them, and what they really want to see in public officials or in the people that represent them. And it's a great time that we get to kick back with them. We have some voting trivia, we give things away. It's a great opportunity to make connections. But more than that, it's a space where you can say exactly how you feel about the process of voting, about the people that are making these decisions. And more than that, I want to also activate some of our young folks to, and everybody else, there are issues that get pointed out of, that this isn't working, this part of the system isn't working. And I tell people, I said, well, why don't you run? We need more folks to stand up, get involved, and run. When we don't like things the way they are, we have the power to change them. So with that said, I will say that we have another event that we are needing volunteers for. We've been going to different facilities where we have conversations with people around voting. Most of these, or a great deal, are first-time voters. We cannot just send first-time voters to the poll and just be like, here you go, vote. The process isn't understood. Well, what is a ballot? How do I fill out a ballot? What do I do? What are these different types of candidate and roles and responsibilities? So we break down the entire ballot. Again, not telling anybody who to vote for, but we sit down, we bring coffee, muffins, fruit, then we sit down and we have some voter education, and where we really go through the ballot, and we flip it. We say flip it, don't skip it, because you have to flip your ballot over for the nonpartisan section. And then we sit down, we then provide buses that will take folks to the polls to go vote. And then we will come back and have a meal that we provide. And so that's what we've been doing.
That's good.
Oh, yes. The Second Look Rally, Tuesday, November 12th. And there's free transportation to that as well. So the contact number, if you're coming from Detroit or Grand Rapids, you can find this contact information on our website as well as our social media.
Yeah. So
Beautiful.
I want to bring up something Trisha had brought up in the chat before I get to the comment that is well, Trisha, you can go about it. No, we were talking about when we were talking about the voter ID stuff.
Oh yeah. So I believe that it is very important to make sure that people have easy access, but also too, we got to be careful. I was listening to a podcast, and this is allegedly because I couldn't find anything in the news about it, but um, there was a podcaster that stated that here in Washtenaw County, um, there was a student that registered to vote with their student ID and registered to vote, got their card and everything back, but they were not a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
And they went and voted, tabulated the vote and everything. And they make you sign that thing. Is this true? Is this real? Who you are?
Right.
Blah blah blah. Are you a U.S. citizen? And so I guess because they signed this thing, that they are now going to be charged.
That's
But
correct.
they came back to the vote out. The vote is going to stand, even though this person is not a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, they're from China, and they cast a ballot. And the student, it was entered into the tabulator and was still expected to be counted. So yeah, apparently though, I'm not sure the logistics, but I know that they're being charged as an unauthorized elector attempting to vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for making a false affidavit for the purpose of securing voter registration.
Yeah.
So that brings me to only U.S. citizens can register and vote.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't necessarily even think it was malicious, because that's what I mean about people just need to do their own research. Because even going back to, we were talking about how people thought that if they had felonies, that they couldn't vote. People were being released from prison and told that by the folks that they were being released from. I mean, I know about 10 folks that say as a part of their discharge from MDOC, that they were told that because of the felony, they would not be able to vote.
I'll raise you one more. So we have been getting emails, and we've been contacted from people who their family members will contact us and say, hey, I have someone in jail, or my brother is in jail, and they're being told they cannot vote. So when we investigate, we find out they're not serving a sentence. They have not been sentenced, and they are not being allowed to vote. And so that's why a big deal of the work that we do is also, not only do we send postcards into the jails and then tell people they can contact us for a voter registration packet, but we find that because in Michigan, there's no standardized process to vote while in jail. So it is up to the sheriff, it's up to the jail, whether or not you get the access that you need to vote, even though it is a constitutional right. And so that just shows that, you say everyone has the right to vote, but your cop-out is that, well, that's not on me whether or not I provide them with the access to do so.
Wow.
So that is
So we're talking access
part
again.
of our work. Yeah.
So this is what I did find about the 19-year-old student. That he has been charged, filed against for a non-citizen for allegedly illegally registering to vote and casting a ballot in the 2024 election. So that there is some charges being pressed against him. But yeah.
They thought he could vote. I mean, depending on how often he's here, sometimes people have dual citizenship. Some people, I mean, I don't know, but I hate to see the student, out on the limb like that. But also, too, we do have to safeguard the process. But when things like this happen, it makes me think like, oh man, here we go. Now they're gonna try to make it harder again because they're like, oh, well, see, look at this. And so it's just like, oh, I wish that would not have happened like that, because that's gonna make it harder for people to access voting.
So let me ask you. So according to Dana Nessle's office, right, they said it's the responsibility of each and every resident of this state and nation to adhere to the law, and it makes it clear non-citizens cannot vote. So that it is up to, they're saying it's the responsibility of the resident. How accurate do you feel like that we hold the responsibility, or the individual, to find out before they go to vote?
I say, like, even the lady that voted in the wrong precinct.
Right.
Let's start there. She voted in the wrong precinct, and she did 5 years in prison, or she did some stint of prison time, or was charged because she voted in the wrong precinct. I mean, I feel like, which is, and I bring this up, I don't have one out here, but on our Canvas sheet, we have a QR code that allows people to scan that QR code, put in your address, and it tells you where your precinct is, tells you who all your people are, all of that, right? Because who's to say that somebody won't go to the wrong precinct? Somebody just got the passion to vote, or if somebody moved and they forgot they moved and they went and they voted in their old place where they lived at, like, all kind of things, can happen. So I think, yes, maybe we should know, but sometimes we don't. And I don't think that everything is always malicious. I think something shouldn't be a penalty, because I know that was a Black woman. So yes, I'll say that. But I do know as well that there have been folks that have done something like that and they were not charged, right? And of a different use. So while it is our responsibility on paper, right, logistics, because that's what the law says, sometimes people just are not abreast to certain laws and policies that are in place.
Absolutely.
Right. And then sometimes the polls move, or they get shut down, or like where out here where I live, people were talking about, like, they went to go vote and the school that they voted or normally voted at was closed. So they didn't know where to go vote. So they just went to the next place thinking that was where they were supposed to vote at, and that wasn't where they were supposed to vote at.
Absolutely.
So if you're not getting that information, these kind of things happen.
Right. And should you be penalized for it in a way that you could go to jail, be fined? I mean, at what point is it just too far? We just not working with people who just want to vote.
Right.
And go ahead, Shushay.
You go ahead.
Yeah. The thing is, it's a very important point, because here we are in an election where, a felon is able to run, and yet people are being prosecuted for mistakes. He's been charged and convicted for things he did on purpose, intentionally. And here we are with people who are voting and making mistakes. This, at some point we really need to look at our behavior within the system. It's like the system, which is people within the system, need behavioral intervention. They need some kind of training, because it just does not add up. It's not in alignment. And we can make a difference at the vote. We can make a difference at the ballot. The other thing is that, practice, like you all were saying, practice voting, but look and see what's on your ballot for your precinct. Okay. Look up your precinct. People look up everything online all the time. Look up your precinct. If you don't know it, get that precinct down. and you can actually pull an example of the ballot ahead of time, so it's not foreign to you, because because we're in different states, sometimes the precincts don't have the same ballot.
Facts.
So
That's
we have
true.
to, we've got to be able to know, you can look up a copy of your particular, I know News Nation now had it. I'm sure other places, and the state of Michigan has it. You can look up a copy and get a copy of your ballot, and it'll show you exactly what's on there. It'll show you the whole ballot, so you can make these decisions. You don't have to guess when you get to the poll. You don't have to do any, mini, miny, mo. I hope no one's doing that anymore, you know, or I'll just move to whatever's drawing me with some energy. And no, you can be educated. You can look up and see what your ballot looks like. What is the example of the ballot that you're going to be looking at, and practice and go through each one. So when you get to the poll, it's not a time for you to make a decision. You've already made it. You've
I'll
already
also,
made it.
there's access to go to League of Women Voters. They have an excellent voter guide that you can review ahead of time. I can't recommend it enough. When we go to different events and community settings, we take a paper copy, but you can access it online as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to add this. In Michigan, anybody can now get a mail-in ballot. You can get your ballot early.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody. So if you're like busy on the go, because a lot of us have jobs that work, and you work all kinds of crazy hours, just get you registered so you can get your ballot through the mail. And then you can sit down and take your time and vote in the privacy of your own home. Get the information you need, Google, whatever you need, have some conversations, and educate yourself, and then vote and take it to your clerk office and put it in the box or hand it to them. I mean, here, I don't know about how in other states, if it's that easy, but here they made it so easy that we can all get mail-in ballots and vote early and get it out of the way. And then you won't have to worry about somebody saying, hey, you're at the wrong precinct, or your precinct is closed, or whatever the case. And if you get your ID changed, they'll take care of that for you. They're switching and send your ballot to your new ID, your new address. So
100%. And in Michigan, they have what's called no excuse absentee ballot, where you don't need any reason to request one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to, before I address, because what Armithia put in this comment, I want to go in on. So before because this is me and Angela talked about this last night. So I want to first play this video, and then we're going to go to her comment. This video is from Alexandria. She couldn't be here tonight, but she still wanted to participate in the conversation. So I'm going to play this. She made this for us.
There's a record level of mistrust in the election process. Only 52% of voters are somewhat confident that U.S. election systems are secure from hacking and other technological threats. And nearly as many voters are not confident about this. Earlier this year, Russian operatives were indicted for spreading misinformation, including millions of dollars spent targeting communities of color. With videos going around about agitators at early voting sites causing conflict with poll workers and disinformation videos explaining why elections don't matter, it's easy to fall into the mindset of elections being nothing but doom and gloom. But in reality, there's multiple reasons why you should be confident about voting this year. Numerous security officials and agencies, including the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure System Agency, confirmed that the 2020 election was exceptionally secure. Despite this, widespread misinformation attempting to undermine public confidence has spread. And there is power in voting. When Barack Obama and John McCain were seeking the presidential election in 2008, it was recorded as the most racially and ethnic diverse election in U.S. history. Nearly 1 in 4 voters were cast by non-white people. The level of participation by Black, Hispanic, and Asian eligible voters all increased from 2004 to 2008, reducing the voter participation gap between themselves and white eligible voters. This was particularly true for Black eligible voters. Their voter turnout rate increased 4.9% points from 60.3% in 2004 to 65.2% in 2008, nearly matching the voter turnout rate of white eligible voters that year. And during the 2016 election, Donald Trump won the popular vote in Michigan by 2%, which equals out to 10,704 votes. To put this in perspective, just over 101,000 Michigan voters cast uncommitted ballots in the presidential primary elections this year. Voters have power, and people have modeled that this year and the years prior. So don't allow misinformation to distract you from voting or cause you confusion. To avoid spreading misinformation, always double check with 2 reliable sources to protect the truth. Visit www.factcheckbs.com to make sure you're spreading factual information online and in your community. And visit vote.gov for information on voter rights and more.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you, Alan.
Yes.
Hey, Attorney Mac. Thank you for joining in.
I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but had some superhero stuff to do.
That's right. That's right.
I
want you to
said
do that,
earlier
too.
that you probably was on the freedom line.
Well,
Yes,
ma'am. Like all y'all are superstars and super women and heroes. I'm just glad to be in y'all presence. That's all.
Yes. So, you guys, here we go. Because Angela, we had this conversation, and I probably had it 1,000 times with Trisha and Revertia. But this what Amithia put in the chat, you guys. She said, I think it's true that Black people need to understand what goes on in their neighborhoods and cities. And governed more by local, city, and state politicians than the president and federal politicians.
That's right. That's right.
100.
So
That's
we were
right, Mama
talking about-
Armithia. Yes. He knows.
I just want to say, if we use the same energy that we're using right now for this presidential election or local elections, oh man, we'll be in such a better place. We wouldn't be out here begging people to exonerate folks and all this crazy stuff that we're going through out here, because we'll have them out of here.
Yeah.
If people would understand that this right is something that is exercised over and over again, I think a lot of times we vote as a fad. I've done it before, like, I remember that whole Bush Gore thing, and just all this, just people vote in a fad because they don't understand the severity. They don't understand how their daily lives tie into the fact that these folks are making the decisions about that. And so that's why, instead of just always pulling up in the hood with the voting party, we wanted to slow things down and do the civic duty education nights and do the voting and more workshops, right? So that people understand it is about your local elections. It is about voting every time. And we sit up and we put a president in office, and then 2 years later, we won't give them a Congress or a Senate to work with, right? Because we don't always show up for those elections to vote every time, but And in our Voting and More workshop, that last workshop, they meet local officials, right?
Mhm.
And so that they can understand what that looks like to actually have something in their mind as a citizen, getting with 2 city council people to get it on a local agenda, right? So that you can bring it before a city council so that it could be possibly turned into an ordinance. And then, right, like all of this stuff is something that is so doable. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the process till we really started doing the murals, right? When we started doing the murals, we had to go to the art commission. The art commission sent us to the city council. The city council voted on it. It just, and then I was like, oh, okay. So that's what we do now. All right. So all you have to do, I don't know about in every municipality, but I know that in Washtenaw County, or I will say specifically in the city of Ypsilanti, Superior Township as well. And I'm not sure if Ypsilanti Township is like that, but it probably is 2 people. If you have a vision for your community, 2 people, if you can get 2 people to believe in that vision, you can have your vision introduced on an agenda. You can write up an ordinance yourself. Let's start there. We wait for these jokers to write legislation for us that we can write ourselves, and then go and give it to somebody who we put in office, and they know that we put them there. See, that's the whole thing too. That's why we call it Voting and More, because we got to teach people that once we hire somebody, then we stand guard and tell them what to do on their job while we are hiring them. You get a 90-day performance appraisal, you get a yearly annual review. We ain't doing this to our politicians, but some of us aren't. But all of these things are things that people need to learn so that we can hold people accountable. We can vote and get the right people in office, and we can learn to vote every time.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good. Good stuff.
Absolutely. And when you think about things that affect us almost immediate, right? These are our local elections. When we're talking about housing, law enforcement, public health, we got to look at our mayors, our city council, county commissioners, school board, judges, and with criminal justice reform, right? Our local elections are determining sheriffs, our prosecutors, our judges, who's controlling local policing, right? Prosecution, sentencing. This is why a stance on issues like plea deals, right? Juvenile justice, like this is what I'm talking about that is affecting our communities and has a direct effect.
Yeah. Go ahead, Revity.
You know what, I was wondering about the provisional ballots, because they say that this is another safety, having a provisional ballot, and there's a lot of misinformation that can imply that people are turned away if you're out of options. And so if there's an issue with your eligibility, it's supposed to be that you can usually request a provisional ballot. And then once this is counted, once eligibility is verified, so it's important to follow up, on what's required. The thing is we have some things in place, and so this is what's mind-boggling is you can have a provisional ballot, but if it was a question, I would just wonder why these people who made mistakes at the ballot didn't get a provisional ballot. Wouldn't that have eliminated them being prosecuted?
You talking about the student that? Right. So I know that when there's a question over a voter's eligibility, and it can happen if a name doesn't appear on a voter roll, or they don't have the required identification, or there's an issue with their voter registration status. Then this would allow them to cast their vote. But the ballot is usually set aside until election officials can verify that eligibility.
It just would have seemed more, I don't know, a better route if they would have given the young man a provisional ballot, and then verify. I just think sometimes people have an excuse to keep sending people to jail unnecessarily. That's all. Again, this is turning into a wrongful conviction. Does anybody else understand this is again happening again?
Well, what I was also going to say though is also I think there's something to be said for recognizing the process of poll workers too. And so when we have people that we call them poll watchers, and I know that there are other groups we work with that have poll challengers, we have sent poll watchers in and there'll be a poll worker there that would either not allow them there or had never heard of it. So I think the education of this also begins at a level from the Secretary of State going to your county clerk, to your city clerks. There has to be education all around, because perhaps if you had someone that was educated on a provisional ballot, that could have been a subject that would have been broached.
And then I think the school also, because you have 18, 19-year-olds, maybe 20-year-olds who never voted before. And I think, or want to vote. This is their first time voting. And I think the school should have some kind of informational something for the students to understand, especially when you have students from all over the place, right?
Right.
Before November gets here or whenever the election time is, information packets for students so they can understand the process. So you won't have a student from another country being arrested or charged with something that probably could have been cleared up if somebody had a conversation or he had the proper information. I don't know if that's, if they're doing that, but I'm just saying that when you have a lot of young people, it should be some kind of education for them, because some of these kids are leaving home. They're not maybe not getting information about voting or getting a mail-in ballot or whatever the case may be. So I'm just saying that right now he's being made an example of. That's what I feel, because of all the attention that has been on Michigan regarding our election process. So I feel like he's going to get a lot of attention because that's what's going on around here right now. So where that might have been somebody else, it probably would have not went this far.
You bring up a good point about was it the responsibility of the school? That I don't know. I have no way to say, but I do know that when you have poll workers, it is so crucial to be well educated in order to be able to provide a fair and accessible and efficient voting processes, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about a provisional ballot, a poll worker should know when and how to issue one. So that may not have been necessarily the case for this, but it brings up a question that how much time is being invested when we are having people who are making such monumental decisions as poll workers and the power that they do have.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Attorney Mac, go ahead.
Go ahead, Attorney Mac.
Ladies first. No, you finish up, Reverend T, if there's something you want to say.
Well, I was just saying that was a great point that Shay made, that had he not been trying to prove a ballot, had he not been trying to, recall to have it retracted, his ballot retracted, it's like we would have never known about it. Is that, wow. So, I mean, if he tried to retract it, that kind of means that maybe he didn't know what was, maybe he was missing some information, right? Okay, I'll let it go. I just feel, again, this is another wrongful
That,
conviction.
or he could be trying to show that our election process is not foolproof. Ah,
Right. Well, we learned that, didn't we? We need to wake up. Go ahead, Attorney Mac.
Well, the discussion you're having, as you know, I got on later than everybody else. It's about somebody. There's issue about them voting. Is that what that general discussion was about? And so some kind of a charge is brought on somebody for voting. Okay, was that out of Washtenaw County or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember hearing something about a voting issue, maybe with a student. What was it, a student or something like that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I must say I don't know a tremendous amount about it, but what I would caution everybody about is that you've got people who are anti-Black and anti-democracy that will use any kind of a discrepancy or issue to try to cast doubt on the system itself. Because you notice in terms of the people that are supporting one candidate, 4 years ago, that candidate was telling people don't early vote because it's all a sham. It's all rigged. Remember all that?
Yeah.
But now that person is telling their people, y'all vote early. Y'all vote early. And there are polls, national polls and state polls that are showing in one particular party, you do have an increase in early voting. Now, because a person votes that is a member of a particular party, you don't know how they're voting. All you know is like a Republican voted. You don't know who that Republican voted for. But I'm saying in the abstract, more people are voting in terms of Republicans than voted early before. Now, for people who aren't supporting that particular candidate, that's not a cause of panic, because the people that are quote unquote voting early now are most likely the people that voted on election day then. Okay, because politics is about addition. It's not about subtraction. It's about addition. So if you've got a base, let's say 46% of the population, that's all you've got. 46% is your ceiling. Okay, 46 is not 50%. So the only way you can win is to convince my math is not all that great, 54% or whatever that is of people that are eligible to vote, to suppress that vote some kind of way, to get those people not to go to the polls or make them think their vote doesn't matter. And by the way, I've got a fundamental question. Have you noticed there aren't a bunch of commercials targeting white folks telling them not to vote? See, because in my community, the people, the infiltrators, which is what they are, that have come into my community are spewing the venom. It don't matter. It ain't about nothing, and it's all rigged anyway. Well, they're not going to Bloomfield Hills telling people that. Okay.
Nope.
See, they're not going to Grosse Pointe Woods telling them people that. Okay. See what I'm saying? See, they're not going to Traverse City telling people that. Okay. And they damn sure not going to Bloomfield Hills telling them people that. Okay. So my point is that when we deal with not just misinformation, which can be excused as somebody being ignorant, and ignorant is not an insult, it just means you just don't know. That misinformation, as opposed to disinformation, disinformation is a lie, is a well-formed intended lie. And so the thing of it is that they will make an hyperbole out of a situation where there could have been some kind of discrepancy or something happened. They say, well, see, these people are cheating, and tried to blow that up. They had an audit in Georgia, have like 8.2 million votes audited, 8.2 million votes audited, okay? And they found like 10 which were questionable. 10 which were questionable. So what I'm saying is the disinformation that goes out there would have you believe everything is fraudulent. And by the way, let me say this to the Black people or well-intentioned white people that are listening right here. Have you noticed how the arguments about watch the polls are in Detroit, Milwaukee,
Yeah.
Atlanta?
Yep.
Okay. Detroit, Milwaukee, Atlanta. Okay. Philadelphia. Okay. Now, what do those cities predominantly have in common? I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Okay. You notice there's never a call to, we got to get poll watchers in Idaho. Ain't nobody saying that. We got to get poll watchers in Utah.
Right.
Ain't nobody
Right.
saying
Right.
that. Ain't nobody talk about poll watchers in Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. I'm just wondering if the system is systemically so bad. If something is systemic, it means it's throughout the whole system. Okay. So if there's systemic voter fraud, why is it only in the areas where there's a bunch of Black people at?
Right.
Oh, so come on now, right? So, you know, there's these discussions that I know people have been having. And one of the things I saw yesterday is that there's all these people. I still go on X. I'll call it Twitter because it's gonna always be Twitter to me. But apparently they're talking about there's a blow up, right? This total meltdown about all these MAGA folks who were saying that there was a commercial. I don't know if you saw it. If you haven't seen it, you can go to CNN, you go to anywhere, and they're talking about all of these, ever since Liz Cheney spoke, all of these women who, and the possibility of them voting for Kamala Harris. Now, this is again, I'm a C3 org, so I'm not saying who to vote for. But what I'm saying is, I think that the conversation is being thrown at any group of that is a minority, whether it's a woman, whether it's Black, whether it's Black men. The whole thing is they're trying to throw it at anyone to see what sticks. There's disinformation at all of the groups, particularly Black and brown. But what I'm seeing and what I've been witnessing is it's not just limited to us. They are throwing disinformation around, period. And it's too much. I get phone calls all day long. My mom has been targeted. It's elderly. So it just makes it's enough already. But I understand what you're saying, and I completely agree. And I think that at this point, they are really just trying to throw disinformation because they know that our votes are valuable. They know how valuable, and that it will make the movement.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That's right.
That's right. And,
That's
and
right.
see, if I can just interject one thing here, the person that put that cry on a moment ago about it's more important for local, I disagree. They both have equal importance in their own realm. Okay. So and I don't know if the person who wrote that cry on is trying to say, well, don't worry about the national election, just focus on the local. A fatal mistake, because you need to understand something on the issue of women's rights to bodily autonomy. Okay. If they pass a national abortion ban, it doesn't matter what the people of the state of Michigan said in the Constitution, amendment Constitution.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what the people of Kansas said in the Constitution. It doesn't matter what the people of Ohio said in the Constitution. None of that makes any difference. Okay. And so the federal elections are crucial because we have some lily-livered punks, some of them with a D next to their name, who had an opportunity to push, for example, the issue of qualified immunity, but scared, and I'm talking about Michigan, scared of getting primaried, okay? Scared of getting primaried and went on and backed down. That legislation has been up now for what, about 3 or 4 sessions in the state house, okay? Bogged down. So what I'm saying is we have to keep pushing and realizing everybody with a D, and I'm just talking about Democrats, with a D next to their name, everybody there with a D ain't got heart. Because
that's right.
And see, Liz Cheney, I vehemently disagree with her and her daddy Okay, vehemently, and people talk about Dick Cheney. And look here, I want to confess to my sisters here. Dick Cheney intimidates me. So why you say that about that old man? I said, look here, if that man will shoot his best friend in the face with a shotgun, what you think he'd do to my black behind? Okay, so I'm saying,
right.
You know, see, I'm gonna be a keyboard revolutionary against Dick Cheney on the keyboard, but see, I'm not going to confront him because that man looks like a mean drunk to me. Okay, but anyway, but in this instance, we're riding for the same thing, because although I disagree with Lynn Cheney on everything she's standing for, the woman had more testosterone in her system than a whole bunch of men, because she knew what was going to happen to her politically if she stood up and said, this man is a fraud. Not only is a fraud, he's a danger to our country. Okay, so hats off to Lynn Cheney, you know, for being willing to stand up. And I hope there are more people in the quote unquote the majority population. I'm not going to say majority culture, because there's no culture greater than our culture. I'm not saying one is greater than the other, but there's none greater than ours, you know. And so my prayer is, because I'm gonna go out canvassing tomorrow. Okay, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm gonna go out canvassing tomorrow, because every vote counts in this. And remember, to black people, it's just amazing to me. It's amazing to me. This man has told you, you know what? We need to let the police loose for maybe 2 or 3 days. That's all we need. Let them loose for 2 or 3 days. We'll have this crime problem solved. They're not going to be let loose in Montana. They're not going to be let loose in Idaho. They're not going to be let loose in Utah. They'll be let loose in Illinois, Michigan, Atlanta, New York, California. What all the places got in common, y'all?
So yeah, I agree with Blessed Love. Let me put her comment up. She said, need to read Amithia's comment again. She did not say one branch is more important than the other. Yeah, I don't think she was trying to express that you shouldn't vote for the presidential election. I think she was just saying that for me and for others, it's just as important, if not more important. Because guess what? Exactly what you're talking about, Attorney Matt. If you don't go to the primary and you don't get the right people in, then when you get a president in and he ain't got the right folks to align himself with, then nothing is going to get through. So these local elections are extremely important when you're talking about for senators and representatives, House reps.
School board, you know, school board.
Yes,
all those things, you know, these county commissioners. Oh Lord, the county commissioners.
Oh Lord, the county commissioners.
Oh Lord.
Listen to this.
I would say, Shay, don't start.
Amithia said,
no, we learned.
I'm not saying one is more important than the other. I'm saying we look for the feds to solve problems that locals can solve.
Right.
That's
right. I think we learned. Well, I know I did. During COVID, and I'm not saying the president is not important, but during COVID, the president did not have any power on what was going on in the state of Michigan. That was Big Gretch. Big Gretch was making to the point where they were suing Big Gretch left and right about every decision she made. So I think each place has its perspective importance, but when I look at things that we can control within our realm, I think is what she is saying. Like, I can go to my city council and say, hey, we need this sidewalk fixed right now. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to go to them right now because I rode my bike the other morning and I almost flew off my bike because I hit a patch of sidewalk, right?
No.
The president is not going to affect this. That's going to be city council, right? So I think that, but a lot of people don't even have the knowledge that they can even approach their elected officials like that.
Yeah.
They don't even think that that's even a thing. And I'm saying to myself, but who gonna tell the employee Okay, what to do on the job if they work for us.
Right.
And I say this with all due respect. People act like when I'm saying this, I'm trying to be demeaning. I'm not. If you need my vote for you to take a seat, I, along with other people, hired you. And if we hired you, then we can also fire you.
That's true.
And that's literally not the first term, but after that, you can get in there and you can do a recall. There are so many things that we can do to have power on this local level. And I think that's what she's saying, that we got to uplift that, because I believe if we uplift that more and people see their power more locally, then I think it changes the game for the voting overall. Because one of the biggest things that people say is, my vote don't mean nothing. My vote don't have no power. No, your vote can elect these local officials who can fix your sidewalks, who can put street lights out, who can actually raise or lower the poverty lines in a certain areas. All of these things are certain things that people within this local area can do. So we have to learn how to look at all of it. Yeah, you might do it because, and I'm telling you, I hear this all the time. The president can't. Okay, yes, but go down that ballot a little bit, because the president is on that ballot, but your state rep is on that ballot, right? Your commissioners are on that ballot. There are so many things that are on that ballot that we
judges on that ballot.
That part.
The prosecutor,
Supreme Court is on that ballot. Let's talk about the Supreme Court is on that ballot. Like we gotta look at everything across the board when it comes to taking back power through our votes.
Right.
I feel like
don't skip it.
I feel like unfortunately, unfortunately, it took for Trump to overturn Roe v. Wade by putting his Supreme Court justices in that were far right. It took for that to happen for people to start looking local. Because then you started seeing the states take action in codifying Roe to an extent. And then people started, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. But that's always been like that. And a lot of change we've seen since 2020 is local. Like, if we want to compare national federal change to local change, the local change is way more progressive compared to the national. Reparations, qualified immunity, both of those things were tackled on a local level by multiple places. So, I mean, local, you have a lot more power locally because it's within your control. And I mean, they take money out of our tax dollars, go locally, direct locally. Like you can clearly see that more than you can see the federal level. But that's where the true power is. It's just not as hyped up.
From my favorite, Fred Hampton said, "The power is with the people." So we have the power. We just have to utilize it and understand it and educate ourselves so we can know how to follow the chain of command. Because some things, like Trisha said, her example was when they had to go to, when they got the theme made, they had to go to the art department. Then they had to go, like, it's a process. And if we don't understand the process, we all over here ain't hiring somebody else, ain't getting nothing done because we supposed to be over here. Right. So we have to understand the process in order to make change happen. It's just not like I go to the governor. It's people that you got to get to before you even get to her. So
that's right. And I think it's important, Jay, I want to add to that
go ahead.
When we come in these spaces, because I tell people all the time, watch how you run up on my people and talk about what we're not doing, because we have been disengaged on purpose. So am I going to come into a disenfranchised low-income area and say, y'all better vote because the people died for that and the this and that? I'm not going to do that. Why? Because ears turned off, right? And then B, you know what I'm saying? When we understand the conspiracy of why our neighborhoods are like that, like you said, brother, our ghettos is all around this country. They look the same. The stuff that they doing to us in these areas, it looks the same. You
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah.
So this stuff be so intentional. But I tell people all the time, I don't care how we got there. We ain't gotta stay there.
That's right.
We
That's
ain't
right.
gotta
That's
stay
right.
That's
And,
right.
and then can I say this also? Part of the problem is, and I'm talking about Black people now. Every generation that we get away from, we call the traditional civil rights movement. Those people, they don't have that experience. You know, in my age group, I never had a water hose turned on me. I never had a police dog, biting me. I never experienced a whites only drinking fountain. So my knowledge of it, my pain of it, is not as much as the people who actually lived through that, had their heads busted, like John Lewis and all them people. But I still feel the pain because I was still in that age group that was still like, Reverend Al Sharpton and I are the same age. Actually, I'm a little bit older than him. So I can feel that. But the more we get away from that, generations removed, our kids are influenced by the same things that every other kid in America is influenced by. It's like a history book thing, oh yeah, okay, Martin Luther King, oh, I have a dream, okay. But then, with the things with like economy and school and all these things, what is it, Gen Z, Gen X? I really don't even know what that really means. But I do know those people that are further and further removed, we have to try to be sure to keep a connection with them on what they see as important in their lives. Because they may not see racial discrimination as an issue. They might see, what about my paycheck? What's going to happen for my paycheck? Maybe that's what they're focusing on. So, I'll tell you, in my generation, I think part of us have dropped the ball, and I say, I guess I have to put me in that too. Because we need to educate them, our young people. Yes, it's beautiful to look toward the future and your employment, but the color of your skin will never change.
I think that's partly how to solve that is to look at our schools. If we were able to teach the right education in schools, showing how white supremacy is linked to your low paycheck as a Black person, then people would be able to understand. But there's policies in places like Florida and other places that are on this idea of book banning. And part of that is banning Black history. And in fact, you had Trump say that he would not allow slavery to be taught. Recently said that like a couple weeks ago. So I think part of it, back to that local thing, part of it is tackling our schools and making sure the proper information is being taught. People are able to relate if they know.
Right. Yeah, and what's really mind-boggling is, why are we the only ones who are requested not to remember our history? How come everybody else who has had some type of genocide can go ahead and remember theirs?
That's true.
That's
very true. That's very true.
For us, yeah, we're the only ones who are being told, forget yours.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Forget yours.
As terrible as it was, and it was terrible, you notice nobody's trying to erase the Holocaust. You notice that?
Not ever.
Not ever. Nobody, and our Jewish brothers and sisters have coined that phrase, never again. And see, they teach that generationally, okay, to their kids, never again. So it's ingrained in them until you raise an excellent point.
I think also we have to stop making it somebody else's responsibility to teach our history and teach it our history ourselves. Right. So, yes, if they take it out of school, what are we going to stop talking about? That's it,
Right.
Oh, we had to, stop these narratives like they are controlling what we know. And we have to just teach our own history. The people who suffered through the Holocaust, they teach their own history.
That's true.
And it from themselves. And so, that's why it's important to them. And that's why they have museum, the way they're flowing with it is because they have embraced their history. They teach their history. That's it, and we have to do the same thing. We can't just
And
wait
they
and,
have their museums built. They have their
yeah.
museums built.
Oh,
They have
and
the community
you
that back their museums and back the further education of their history. We
Mhm.
want to wait for endowments and somebody to give us something before we acknowledge our history.
right.
If you're not teaching history at home, then you are not in, but you are giving your children a disadvantage.
Correct.
Because a child who is aware of their history, and when you know your history, and when you know where you come from, and not just from slavery, beyond from the kings, the queens, the pyramids, the earth, when you know this,
Right.
then your child is empowered.
Mm-hmm.
You can't break them from purpose.
Right.
I
It wouldn't
think
even be
I
a
like what Trisha
conversation.
said. Yeah,
It wouldn't
Trisha
even
said
be a
we don't know
conversation if
who we are
we,
on purpose.
right, if we taught our own history, embrace our history, and understand who we are, it wouldn't be a conversation about not teaching it, taking it out of school. It wouldn't matter.
Right.
You can't teach what you don't know.
Amen.
And that's the
Go
thing.
ahead.
We can't
That's right.
teach what we don't know. And I mean, look at it, and brother admitted it, and we talk about this all the time. Unfortunately, after the Civil Rights Act, we trusted white folks. Once we could start getting some of the same stuff that they could get, and we could get a little loan and get a house and do all this and that, it's like it was such a sigh of relief to not have to fight anymore. And I get why, you know, people lynched, killed, beat, like coming from a legacy of that. And now you have this piece of paper that says, hey, you can't violate me anymore, right? You cannot openly violate me anymore. And so then generations after that were taught how to stand down. We lost somewhat of the fight. I know I didn't learn it in my household. I know plenty of people that didn't learn it in their households. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I don't think, and that's why I'm trying to say it, not even say it in an accusatory way, because yes, while the ball was dropped, I understand and I get why. It was very painful for people to talk about what had happened and the things that families had gone through. Nobody wanted to wear that as a badge of honor, but it wasn't necessarily a badge of honor. It was our legacy. And in order to know where you're going, you've got to be clear about where you've been. And a lot of us are missing that picture.
Right. That's right. That's right, Trisha. That's right.
Go ahead, Alan.
we gotta also too, I mean, to change that, we gotta look at all areas, our language, our actions, our everyday behaviors, our psyche. We got to start changing that. The way we talk about each other is an example of how it's just not the same. You know, you hear people talk about those times when you read books about slavery and things like that. They're calling Black people slaves, even though they're no longer enslaved, but oh, you're a slave. The slave went here, went there. Slavery was something to us. It's not something we were at birth. So it's in our language. We have to change that as well in order to be different.
That's right. That's right.
And on the point of someone in the
Go
chat.
Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, someone in the chat says something about being part of a horrendous apartheid, and I have a feeling I know what they're referring to. Saying Kamala and Trump and elected officials are part of that, something to that extent. And just thinking about that, if people had the proper education, the proper history and knowledge, they would know, they would be able to recognize an apartheid when it's happening to any type of group. There's obviously countries based on ethnocracy that we see now. And there's a lot of Black folk I talk to, and a lot of other groups outside that's non-white that don't seem to understand what that is or don't agree that that's what's happening. When in fact, it is to a T, to the law. I mean, banning people's ethnic flags from being flown in public spaces, but not the other. That's clear what that's doing. But people are acting as if that's not oh, I don't know, like just not acting like they understand. But we've seen it here in America. But if we give the next generation the right education from people like us, then people won't be going for that nowhere. Not just America, but nowhere.
Yeah.
And the process, this voting process, you know, it used to be, and I'm sure it still is in many ways, taught in schools. But they should be going over the ballots in the schools. Definitely in high school when people are getting ready to vote. That should be a practice. And we gotta consider, you know, when it comes to our children and future generations, what is really happening here. And let's look at for a little bit, let's just take a moment to consider what other children do when they come from other countries into the United States and from different cultures. And there are some cultures where those children will go to schools in the United States, learn our language, learn our customs and everything. But when they get home, it's back to their culture. It's back to who they are. It's back to their language, their writing, their way of writing and communicating and knowing in their faith, whatever that is. I'm going to fast forward too, because there are some, you know, of course, schools that have different languages that you can learn and be immersed in. I have a granddaughter who is in one of those schools. And but for us, we go to school, learn their language, and surprisingly trying to learn their custom. And then when you come home, when that child comes home, what are they learning? When you consider these children will come to United States, go to our schools, go back home, learn their work, learn their language, learn their skills, learn their grammar. When we go to school, even if we are immersed in a language, what do we come home to unless that parent is going to teach them English at home? If they're not going to, are they going to teach the culture at home? And see, this is where the difference is. I just want people to just take a moment and consider that. We need to have an ethical standard. If you have not, and if you need help, check me out. Contact me, email me at tiataylor@thechoicezone.com. If you needed an ethical standard for your family to stand upon, if you don't have one, make one. Make one. There needs to be a standard, a way of not just believing, but of being. And standing up, being assertive, knowing what you are standing for. You should have, you know, I don't want to say should on anybody, but it would be great if we had a history, which we do, of standing. Unfortunately, a lot of our younger generations do not remember or know because it hasn't been taught.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to shift the conversation a little bit, you guys. I talked to Crystal today, and first of all, as I bring Crystal up, I wanted to put her picture up so everybody know who I'm talking about. We've been advocating for Crystal for over a year now, if not longer.
Longer.
So Crystal contacted me early this week, sent a message that her lawyer sent a message to Dana Nessel's office. And the response, someone for Dana Nessel's office responded that they've been looking into her case, and from what they gathered, she's getting proper medical care in a safe, clean environment. And I was just done with
Liars.
I was done with
Liars.
that. The actual, I could read it, but why waste y'all time reading this letter?
Well, I
So
mean, my thing is, why are they just sending a letter? Why can't they, if they went and saw?
no. So this week, Crystal so happened the chief head doctor of MDOC was in Huron Valley for whatever reason. And one of the inmates went and got Crystal and told him that he was there, and Crystal got to see him. And after she saw this doctor, he checked out her ears. He couldn't even see inside her ears. Now, the other doctor, Dr. Ellison, who she's been seeing, he just wanted to wash her ears out with some water solution or whatever. This doctor said he couldn't see inside her ears, and he ordered her a medicated eardrop. He ordered some more medications for the mold infection that she has going on, and some other things. So it took somebody else to come inside to see what was going on. And so these medications that Crystal, some of them that she previously had before, that the current doctor had taken away from her, that she's getting back. Now she could have them on her person, in her space. So as retaliation from this doctor is making her go to the nurse's station 4 times a day so she can get her medicine. So I this is why, again, voting matters, right? Voting matters. Heidi Washington, and she's been there since the Snyder administration. We didn't hold nobody accountable or ask, why is this lady still in charge of this prison, right? Or the prison complex of Michigan. Some of these things, if we don't hold people accountable, they just do whatever they want to do. And they're doing whatever they want to do. And they're saying, hey, they're still painting over the mold in there. She just told me about that today. They're still painting over the mold. All of these things that they're doing, that if we don't use our voices and if we don't use our votes just to help incarcerated people, what do you think about us, ourselves? So we have to, look into these things and understand who we're voting for. Crystal said to me tonight, before we came on here, she said, I know this is tearing, I can feel it inside of me. The doctor could even see, he ordered her to go get imaging because he could not physically himself see inside her ear. She just told me last week how bad it was, and I didn't get to talk about it, but how it was just how the it's coming out her ears now. It's stuff is all around her ears, and she has like fluid coming out of her ears. So I don't know what the answer is. I've been talking to a few people about what's our next step out there in Huron Valley, but we're going to keep you guys posted about that, because this is just insane. And then the retaliation, they know she has a bad heart and she has other things. They took her walker away. Now she got to take this long walk 4 times a day to get some medicine that she can put eardrops in her ears herself. It's really sad. But I just want everyone to just keep Crystal in our prayers. If you guys still have her information, send her, some thoughts and positive words. It's just hard to see and hear this kind of treatment happening right here in Michigan. We ain't even talking about, somewhere overseas or whatever. We're talking right here in Michigan. So I wanted to get that out. Also, Trisha, I wanted to. She has some events also this weekend. Go ahead, Trisha.
Mhm.
Yes, so this is stop 3, our party at the polls tour. That has been in Ypsilanti area 4819798. So we will be, this is the last stop. The new West Willow Neighborhood Association, that's 2057 Tyler Road. We'll be there tomorrow from 1 to 4. We're gonna have the DJ spinning. We're gonna have Creature Teacher out with his animals. Gonna be some face painting. We uplifting early voting. We will be offering rides to people to early vote. Of course, we're gonna have some food and some fun. That's going down tomorrow. So if you're in the area, you want to come by, stop by, tell your family, tell your friends. We would love to see you out.
Okay.
And in the morning at 10:30, we're gonna be out in the neighborhood canvassing. So we're gonna be inviting people out to the event or to the party, but we also are going to be dropping off information to share with them that they can early vote through Sunday. Also give them the places that they can vote at. Also allow them to see if they're registered, because if they're not, then they can go to the clerk's office and register on Monday so that they can still vote. So we just want to make sure that everybody's getting this information, whether they come to the party or not. We want everybody to know that they can vote early or they can vote on Tuesday.
And also, you can vote Saturday,
Sunday,
and Sunday,
yep.
and Monday. You don't have to wait till
Yep.
Tuesday.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, that's right.
Angela, do you have anything else that we should know, or people? Um,
Just that we are providing transportation. We have shuttle buses and a school bus that are going to. So if you have a group, if you know of a facility or elder care home or anywhere, even individuals, we will come and we will provide transportation for them. We provide transportation, a snack on the way, and then the other thing we're doing, like with tomorrow, we I know it's short notice, but if anybody's interested in volunteering, we'll be going to several facilities in Detroit tomorrow. And if there's anyone that wants to lend a hand, what we'll be doing is in the morning providing breakfast. Then we'll do some voter empowerment and voter education, going through the ballot and exactly what's at stake on the ballot, and helping anyone, whether you're a first time voter, whether you've never registered or not. We break folks into groups, and we have individuals that will sit down and work with them, make sure that we find your right location, and then we take you to vote and come back and bring you a meal.
All right.
wow. Yes. Not only do you get a ride, you get a whole experience.
Yeah. I love that
Well,
too. Yeah.
I want people, especially first time voters, to feel like voting is not something you like, oh man, I gotta go and do this thing. No, like you want to do it. You want to see that that you want to feel empowered, and you want to know that I am grateful, because when you care about your communities, that affects me and vice versa. And
Mhm.
so I just want folks to know how invaluable it is when they stand up and decide to be a part of this process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Reverend Tia.
Mhm. Well, and I just want to say, you all grab somebody. If you haven't talked to somebody in your family or your little ones, look, grab them. My grandbaby goes to the polls with her mother, and we make it a big deal. We tell her, that's when you tell your child, that's when you talk to them about history, that's when you talk to them about what you're doing and why it's important, so that when they're little, they're looking forward to voting. They're looking forward to having their voice made. honest with you, I remember going with my mother. I didn't know what she was doing, but I knew that box thing that I was looking at her touch. I wanted to touch it too. And I thought it was buttons up there. And at one point they did have these little buttons and things, and I wanted to push them. So make it fun. And at the same time, teach so that our younger generations can understand and so they can take pride in having their voice heard.
Allie, do you have something?
Yeah. Only thing I want to say is don't fall for misinformation. Don't allow that to discourage you. Check out the website factcheckthebs.com to cross-reference information you're seeing online to make sure it's real.
Yeah. Tony Mack.
Hey, God bless y'all. Sister, I don't believe we've ever met before, Angela. Pleased to see you, and very encouraging. And hey, to all you great sisters here, Black women have been the backbone of the movement. Yes, y'all have. Yes, y'all have. Yes, y'all have. And stuff. And so, God bless y'all. And on behalf of Black men, thank you. Thank you, because we need that support. We need that support. And the Black woman historically has always been there. And, with one particular political party, they are the backbone of that party, by the way. If they don't vote, that party just doesn't win. They just don't win. That's all. They just don't win. So you see, I'm not one of them messed up Black dudes that into that Trump nonsense. That I'm sorry. I gotta say this, J Love. I'm sorry. They got one cat down in Florida. He's a congressman from Florida named Byron Donaldson, whatever. You talk about a step and fetch it wannabe. Trump don't love you. I'm sorry. I don't want to say this. He don't love you. You wasn't no vice presidential pick, Tim Scott, Trump don't love you, and then, talking about with all that misogyny that Trump's talking about, well, he's an alpha male. Are you crazy? He's an alpha male and he's espousing a party that would not have allowed you back in the day to be married to your Caucasian wife as you are now. Yeah, I said it. Yes, I said it. Yes, I said it. Okay. So, it's just amazing to me how some people, I don't know. They so happy to be around some folks. Just pleasure to be there, and they selling their souls, and Byron Donalds ain't no light-skinned Black dude. I mean, he's showing enough Black all the way around, okay? and it's just and by the way, when he was at that rally in Madison Square Garden, when they got up to talk, why was they playing Dixie? So anyway. Anyway.
I don't know, Attorney Mack. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I'm through. Look, I love y'all. Thank you. J Love, please don't kick me off the show. Please don't. I know. Hey, J Love, I know you still get them letters. I know you do.
He almost made it through the whole show, Jay. Almost.
Right.
He was on his best behavior, and then he
right. I thought we was gonna make it. Well, and that's and you know what? Thank you guys for watching. Next week. Oh, before we leave, the bishop will be back. And next week conversation, the 2024 election is over. So now what? So we're gonna have by popular demand Bishop Burdell Jefferson back with us, Reverend Tia's aunt, a strong advocate of community advocate and international speaker up there at Flint, Michigan.
Yeah. You're
gonna come down here and get us together after this election.
Oh, I just got chills just thinking about it, Jay. I got chills. She gonna be ready. She gonna be fired up.
Yes. So looking forward to that conversation next week, you guys. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week on Turning a Moment into a Movement. Good night.
Night.